Last year, Steven Spielberg's remake of the movie musical West Side Story came out, receiving widespread critical acclaim. Written by Tony Kushner, the film is a remake of the classic from 1961, which itself was the first on-screen adaptation of the stage musical from 1957, conceived by Jerome Robbins and Arthur Lawrence, which itself is a loose adaptation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Like Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story is about two star-crossed lovers, Tony and Maria, played by Ansel Elgort and Rachel Zegler. Tony is a white American and ex-member of the street gang The Jets, and Maria is the sister of Bernardo, played by David Alvarez, the leader of the Sharks, a gang of Puerto Rican immigrants. The two gangs are fighting for control of a few blocks in Manhattan's West Side, which are being demolished to make expensive homes for richer tenants. Film critic Adam Kempenaar said on Rotten Tomatoes that this storyline, quote, underscores the irony of these gangs fighting when they have so much in common, unquote, that being that they are both going to lose their homes. I like this interpretation a lot, as it does emphasise the tragedy of what happens later in the film. The tension between the Sharks and Jets reaches a fever pitch at a mixer set up by the local school board to make the two groups like each other. This is because attending the party is Tony, who came as a favour to his friend Riff, the Jets leader, played by Mike Faist. Tony has just gotten out of prison after a year for assaulting a member in another street gang, beating him almost to death. Now out of prison, Tony is determined to better himself. Also at the dance is Maria, accompanied by Bernardo and his girlfriend Anita, played by Ariana DeBose. The school board tries and fails to encourage friendship between the two groups, leading to a spectacular dance battle, of course. While the dancing is going on, it's love at first sight for Tony and Maria. They kiss behind the bleachers where they are discovered, leading to an argument breaking out. Riff and Bernardo organise a fight between the Jets and the Sharks for the following night, and Maria begs Tony to stop it. However, instead of stopping it, Tony somehow manages to make it worse. An altercation during the fight between Riff and Bernardo leads to Riff being stabbed. Immediately after, Tony stabs Bernardo in revenge. They both die and Tony has to hide from the Sharks in fear of retribution. He decides to visit Maria one last time before turning himself into the police, and they decide to run away together. However, they are discovered by Anita and Tony goes to hide at the chemist's to wait for Maria to arrive. A police inspector then visits Maria and she convinces Anita to find Tony and tell him to wait for her, only to find the chemist is full of Jets. They attack Anita and she is saved by Valentina, the owner of the chemists and Tony's mentor. Angered by her treatment, Anita lies and tells them all that Chino, the boy Bernardo picked out to marry Maria, played by Josh Andres Rivera, heard about her relationship with Tony and killed her. Valentina tells Tony, who runs out into the streets looking for Chino. In a terrible twist of fate, he sees Maria, and as he is running towards her, Chino appears behind him and shoots him twice in the back. After Tony dies on the street, Maria scolds the two gangs for their fighting, and in their first act of unity they all help to carry Tony's body away. Meanwhile, Valentina and Chino stay, and Chino is arrested by the police. So yeah, unlike Romeo and Juliet, only Tony dies in the end. It is an effective ending, but I think Maria's speech was a bit watered down compared to the original.
You all killed him, not with bullets and guns, with hate. Well, I can kill too, because now I have hate.
I can kill now because I hate now.
And throughout the film, I didn't really have any interest in the love story, probably because of how quickly they fall in love. This movie takes place in like 2 days, remember? It's just unbelievable, and I lose all sympathy near the end, mainly because Maria forgives Tony so quickly that she doesn't even seem to care about her brother who Tony murdered, and also telling Anita that she doesn't understand love when, again, she's talking about being in love with the guy who killed her boyfriend. He was your brother, Maria. The problem is also that unlike the background characters, neither Tony nor Maria seem to be very developed as characters, and especially as the main characters. Well, to be fair, they weren't that interesting in the original either. There are a lot of other changes from the original. I watched the 61 version and I really liked it. It still looks really good and technologically it was ambitious and it holds up quite well. The musical numbers are all great and the dancing's amazing. It's a great movie still, and even if you don't watch a lot of older films, I would still recommend giving it a try. That being said, being from the 60s means the film is dated in a lot of ways, largely because white actors were cast to play Latino characters, and the new version obviously amended that. Another change is that Anybody's, played by Iris Mines, was changed from being a boyish girl and is now trans in this version, which I thought was an interesting spin on the original character and actually worked really well. They also replaced the character of Doc and instead created a new character, Valentina, played by Rita Moreno, who starred in the original as Anita. She's actually Doc's wife in this version, which was a nice reference, and she actually sings Somewhere, which in the original was sung by Tony and Maria when they decided to run away together. It makes more sense for them to have sung it, as it doesn't really work as a solo, and I understand that they probably wanted to give Rita Moreno her own musical number. The order of some songs was changed. For example, Cool is now sung by Tony before the fight, and in the original it was sung after the fight by another member of the Jets. I Feel Pretty actually now comes after the fight, and this time serves as a bit of comic relief, which I think was a good idea, but also has the added side effect of making the song feel more bittersweet than I think it was supposed to. Like the original, the musical numbers are all fantastic. This time the music was conducted by Gustavo Dudamel, using the original music and lyrics by the late greats Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim, although some lyrics were changed but not too drastically. My favourite songs from both versions are probably America and G Officer Krupke. Since it's Steven Spielberg, of course the direction was superb. He did an amazing job of making you feel as invested in the dancing and music as if you were watching it live on stage, due to the camera movement really taking you into the action. Also, shout out to cinematographer Janusz Kaminski, as it's a beautiful film with all the fantastical elements you'd expect from a musical, whilst also capturing 1950s New York really well. I'm also obsessed with the clothes, especially the dresses, so the Oscar nomination for designer Paul Tazwell was well deserved. The performances are all solid. My personal standouts are Mike Faist as Riff and Ariana DeBose as Anita, who, as you probably know, won an Oscar for the role just as Rita Moreno did in 1962. Their performances especially stuck out to me as they captured the same charm from the original actors, but also brought in something unique. Ansel Elgort was fine as Tony, but he didn't really bring anything groundbreaking to the role. I also didn't think his chemistry with Rachel Zegler's Maria was that palpable, although for only being around 18 years old at the time, Zegler's performance was really good and she's a really talented singer. Overall, I thought West Side Story was a really fun movie. It was definitely a shame that it underperformed at the box office, and whilst the first half is better than the second, the music and side characters still managed to carry a weaker love story. If you are a fan of movie musicals, I think you'll really like it too. I say that as if the film hasn't been out for months, but hey ho. I'll give it a final rating of 7 stars out of 10. That's the end of my review. Did you like the film? Tell me about your opinion in the comments, and I'll see you next time.